And they'll just go. If I had cowbells, I could illustrate. But on the guitar, what they do. So that kind of. So you can have a kind of a syncopated rhythm like that, where you have a high and a low sound. And that's actually something you find throughout the Afro-diasporic rhythms in the Caribbean too. Like in Cuba, you've got the bongo drums. There's always a small one and a larger one, and they have it's like a high pitch and low pitch, and they'll even call them macho y hembra, like male and female. And the conga drums are that way too. So that's kind of a rhythmic concept that's very common to all these cultures that derive musically from Africa. Anyway, so the first one I'm going to show you is this. There's a samba pattern. Of course, the samba is the essential rhythm of Brazil. It's the rhythm that the newly emancipated blacks brought to the capital, well, to the urban center of Rio de Janeiro in the late 19th and early 20th century. And at first they were called blocos sucios, sort of like ragamuffins. And the police would chase them out of their neighborhoods when they were dancing these sambas in the street. And then eventually Brazil realized, hey, this is the symbol of the nation. And they built the Samba Drome, which is like a large parade street that is permanently set up for samba. But anyway, so the samba is the essential rhythm of. Let's let somebody in here if I can. Yes, hello. So the first one I'm going to show you is this chord. So if you have a guitar, the way that you finger it, if you know the G, I don't know if you know the G chord. Well, you're just going to play a G, what we call a G9 chord. And so what you do, you place your third finger on the 6th string, 3rd fret, and then your second finger on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. So those notes are G and A. And then you're going to be playing some open strings. And to sort of give an idea, the part here that changes is the notes on the 4th string. So it sounds like that. Something like that. And so you see the bass line is pretty steady. And then you've got a rhythm. If you tap your foot, so the part that I'm clapping is the part that my fingers, my 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers play when they're playing strings 4, 3, and 2. You can sing a little bit. Make up any samba you want. So that's the first one that I'm showing you. And again, so what your first finger is doing, it starts off open, then your first finger plays 1st fret, 4th string, then 2nd fret, 4th string, and then back to 1st fret, and you're playing the notes. And it's almost like a little vamp that's going on. You might think of kind of similar, a little simpler than that famous riff from Brazil, the famous samba by Adi Barroso. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. So in the next one, we get to experience this agogo concept where and one feature of Brazilian music that's very characteristic and has a lot to do with the charm of the music. It's this sort of syncopation where the chords anticipate the change of harmony that starts on the next bar. So we have this chord, which kind of like I forget, like a D6 chord with ninth or something, and then you have a diminished seventh chord, and so over an A pedal, and then you have G over an A pedal, and so you say that the chord anticipates the downbeat. So when we think of a lot of conventional Western music, like marches or waltzes, the chords change on the downbeat, not before it. And so that's something that's very characteristic of not just Brazilian music, but for example, Cuban music, where for example, a lot of Cuban music, we'll see this later, the bass line changes to anticipates the harmony before the downbeat does. So here we go again. And so let's talk about these chords. So the first one, and you can you see the box diagram? Here you have a box diagram. And so what you can do here is you have this nice chord that's kind of like a stacked fourths. Reverse your second and third fingers on the third and second strings. And then you have this nice diminished chord. And you can leave your first and fourth fingers on strings 4 and 1. So that's called a pivot finger, because instead of picking up all your fingers at the same time, you're kind of being economical in your gesture, leaving 1 and 4 there, and then just moving the fingers that actually need changing. And then for this next one, again, you've got like a G chord with a pedal note, which is interesting. It's both in the bass line and in the treble. You can think as kind of a ninth chord, like an A. Actually, they give you some symbols there, so I don't have to work so hard. A7 with a sus4 or something like that. And then for this next one, all you do for this is take your first finger and slide it down from D on the second string to C sharp, right? And those are such pretty chords. I think that when we're here in New Hampshire on a cold day like this, this might make you want to go out and make yourself a Mai Tai or something. I started to riff around there because this pattern almost sounds like the vamp that you might have before the actual song starts, right? Or you could write a song about this. Let's let somebody in. Hello, Paul. We're just talking about Brazilian guitar rhythms. So let's go to this next one. Now, some of the Brazilian chords are very pretty because they use what's called campanella effects. Campanella means bells, and it means that you'll have some kind of combination of open strings and fingered notes, and oftentimes the fingered notes are actually higher in pitch than the open strings, and so you might, for example, here. Here's an example. these two notes, D and F, on the fourth and third string. And but we're actually not in that register. So we're in this area. Well, so there you have this beautiful chord that's third finger and pinky on in the 6th fret on string 4 and 3, right? And so you get that very pretty chord. And then the part of this that alternates is the first finger goes from 5th fret to 4th fret, from G sharp to F sharp. And this might be a good one to practice clapping the top part. Ba, 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 ba. We'll try, should we try it? We'll go slowly. 2, 3, 4. So you see this, some student was asking me the other day, what does the word syncopation mean? And I was struggling. I don't always have like a standard dictionary definition that I can just roll off the top of my head. But I sort of defined it as basically what happens when the music is emphasizing the weak beats and not the strong beats. And so here, for example, you see this, that the bass line plays the strong beats, right? And the top line so the bass line is the solid European rhythm going on, and then this is like a kind of like this samba 3. This is kind of like a syncopated rhythm that floats above this sort of steady grounded bass line. But this is an area where you can do some pretty things. Like if you play this chord, it's like a major 7. If you take the same 2 fingers and slide them down to the 5th fret, you get an A minor. So we've got some different Brazilian rhythms that you can play. Does anybody have any questions so far? And maybe did Peggy want to say, I can unmute people. How do we unmute?
I think everyone has the option to
unmute
themselves.
I wasn't sure. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, if you have a guitar, try some of this stuff out later. It's a lot of fun. So let's see here. Let me kind of bounce around a little bit. We can come back to some of these other Brazilian rhythms. They get a little bit more complicated. This is from a book by a fellow named Nelson Faria, where he lists about something like 250 different Brazilian rhythms. It's kind of like a dictionary of Brazilian guitar rhythms, organized along all these different genres like samba, choros, baião, which is I probably didn't say that right either. Baião, just a nasal thing. It's a rhythm that's associated with the Northeast of Brazil. You know, the Northeast is a region of Brazil that is more countrified. It's kind of more rural, or there are major cities like Recife, but they're not the world famous cities like Rio and Sao Paulo. And I've known some musical colleagues and friends from both areas, and I always get the sense that the people from Rio and Sao Paulo regard people from the Northeast as kind of like Hicks, you know. But the Hick music is fantastic too. There's the forró, which is an accordion genre. There's a viola caipira, which is a kind of a steel string variation of the guitar that's played in the country area. So Brazil is a fabulously diverse musical country. I would love to visit again. I've only been once, and that was for a music festival that took place, but we're talking back like the mid 1990s. And I remember it was just a fabulous place. So let's look at some Cuban rhythms just to, can I change here? We'll come back to these. So for this, it's good to start with a little background. The basic popular Cuban music rhythms, I mean the rhythms associated with Cuban popular music, really come from the Afro-Cuban culture. And in Cuba, there were 4 groups of Afro-Cuban enslaved peoples that were identified by their religious affiliation. And the religious practice of Afro-Cuban people has a lot to do with the Yoruba people, some other peoples in West Africa, the area of Niger, Ghana, those areas. And they had a practice of worshiping these African deities known as orishas. Now, what happened when they got to Cuba was there was probably quite a bit of oppression by the Spanish colonial and ecclesiastical authorities of this kind of worship. So they were very clever. They wound up disguising all of the African orishas as Roman Catholic saints. So, for example, in Cuba, you'll often see in somebody's house maybe a little shrine, or in Miami for that matter, Miami or Brooklyn. You know, if it's a Cuban or Caribbean household, you'll see a shrine to Saint Barbara, Santa Barbara, and Santa Barbara is the patron saint of Cuba. But she has another identity that's not as apparent. She's Chango, the Afro-Cuban Orisha of male energies and of thunder, and so it's fascinating. If you're interested in this, I encourage you to read more on Britannica. Heck, Wikipedia works too. Read about orishas. I'll put it in the chat space.
Okay.
And just a minute, so that I can do that for you. So the word is, let me see if I can do this, orisha. And the worship of orishas is known by outsiders as Santeria, but the official name in the Yoruba language is Lukume. And wow, I actually spelled all that correctly. I couldn't really see what I was typing, so I'm so pleased with myself that, sort of like playing guitar behind your back, like the way Jimi Hendrix did. Right? I can't do that. I can't play guitar behind my back. He played it with his teeth too. I understand. That was although I heard that was a parlor trick. Like he would do something like, here you go. And you think he's playing with his teeth, but
That's pretty good.
So I just did a Jimi Hendrix parlor trick. He's actually just playing, you can do slurs on the guitar, you can go, let's see. used to know I played that. That's the opening of the Gran Jota Aragonesa by Tarrega. That's it. And he was rumored to play this piece while smoking a cigar with his right hand. So no fun. Anyway, we got way off. I apologize for that. I'm known for doing that. But anyway, so we were talking about the Cuban rhythms and how they come from these African, really Afro-Cuban religious practices, because it's not even African or Christian anymore, but some kind of a hybrid, like a syncretic practice. So if we go back to the share screen and we have our rhythms. So one of the most common rhythms in Cuban music is what would translate as a triplet, but it's not a true triplet in the Western European sense. It's called tresillo, and it's an uneven triplet. It's like ba, 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 ba. And it derives from an additive rhythmic concept. So you could think of like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Where the dotted quarter here, I don't want to go too much into the weeds on mechanics of reading music, but basically a dotted quarter could be like that we have here. I'll point to it. Could be, sometimes I can actually add notes. So if I go here, I could go 1 and 2. It's kind of like trying to write on an Etch-a-Sketch. Anybody ever do that? 2 and so fast. So 1 and 2 and 3 and also works. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. And so we have that basic Afro-Cuban rhythmic cell, and it's actually associated with one of the orishas. I don't remember the one off the top of my head, but in my lecture that I do for the students, I sort of make reference to it. It might be Ochosi, but I'd have to check on that. And then we have the tresillo again, but notated with eighth notes. And then the other very common rhythm that you have in Cuba is the quintillo, which is a kind of like an uneven quintuplet, like 5 notes. So ba, 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 ba. We can understand it as a more elaborated version of the tresillo. So instead of ba, 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 you go ba, 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 ba. So you see you're adding some intermediate strokes too for the quintillo. So, and then we have a son clave, which is in a lot of Cuban music and boleros and guarachas and sones and all these, a very common rhythmic device is a kind of spine for the whole performance, almost like a rhythmic spine made up of a clave pattern. What is clave? It's those sticks that I should have brought one right up. Sticks that they bang together. I'm trying to imitate with my mouth, but the son clave is a 2-bar pattern, and typically it can either be 3-2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or it could be 2-3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And depending on the song, either the 3-2 or the 2-3 will fit the song well. And if it doesn't fit, it's called riding the horse backwards. And so there's anecdotes of salsa musicians who are listening to a recording go, there's something wrong with that recording. What is it? It's driving me crazy. And they go, oh, I got it. I figured it out. They are riding the horse backwards. So whoever played the son clave started with the wrong pattern. So, and then we have the habanera rhythm, which a lot of people are probably already familiar with. Ba, 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 ba. And the habanera has an interesting history that were able to bring New England into the mix. Have people heard of the English country dance? I assume people have heard of the English country or of contra dance, right?
Contra dance, yeah.
Exactly. Contra dance is a huge deal here in New Hampshire and in New England. I remember years ago going to the Nelson Town Hall. They still do that over there. So I'm always impressed. It's so cool that you have this kind of regional musical practice that goes all the way back to the colonial era, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's like that got that kind of history. Of course, my students at Key State usually have never heard of it. And I thought, hey, go down to the Nelson Town Hall on what is it, Tuesday night, or did they do it on weekends? I forget. Anyway, but there's a link between New England contra dance and Cuban habanera, believe it or not. How so? Well, the English country dance became very popular in France in the 18th century, but known in the French version as contredanse, right? Contredanse. And so the planters and slave owners in the colony of Haiti, which is right next to Cuba, just separated by a very thin waterway known as in the Caribbean, known as the Windward Passage, which I actually got to sail once when I worked on a cruise ship. We sailed between Cuba and Haiti. Very cool. But anyway, so Haiti, the contra dance was very popular in Haiti, and then after the Haitian Revolution of the late 1790s and early 1800s, in which the black elites, with the help of enslaved blacks, overthrew the white colonial government. It's like the first black rebellion against slavery in the New World, and it scared the bejesus out of the Southern plantationocracy, in the South. So, but anyway, the planters escaped it was very bloody. They escaped to Cuba, to eastern Cuba, Oriente province, with their enslaved servants, and they brought the contradanza with them. Now, my understanding is that the contradanza was not a couple dance at this point. It was like a line dance, kind of like you see in those Jane Austen movies, right? Where Mr. Darcy and Jane Austen are on. There's a line of guys and a line of women. So like cotillion or something like that. So, but somehow when the contradanza made its way to Havana, it became a couple dance with people dancing, more or less closely, like a tango or something like that. And the style of dancing the contradanza in Havana became known as the contradanza habanera, the contradanza as it is danced in Havana, and then became short. They gave it a short title of, and we're all familiar with. So we're all familiar with the famous habanera that Carmen dances in Georges Bizet's opera Carmen, which kind of has a lot of fun with Spanish and flamenco stereotypes. So so going back to our share screen here, if I can do it. So we're learning about the contradanza in Cuba, and so yeah, they had this rhythm, which was the habanera. Let me see. I'm gonna actually try to play this. I started to learn. a wonderful contradanza by Cervantes. Like that. So ba 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 ba. Actually, there he's got the quintillo going, but it's the contradanza rhythm. And then what you sometimes have, or I kind of illustrated here. Sometimes you'll have a contradanza rhythm that's a triplet, like a normal European triplet, followed by a duplet. So ba 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 ba. And some of the famous contradanzas for piano by Manuel Saumel and Ignacio Cervantes, they kind of superimpose, say, the habanero, the ba of the bass and bum, ba ba bum bum, against a melodic rhythm that might be that triplet, and it becomes kind of complex, like a triplet against a dotted eighth and 16th. So you've got a lot of that Afro-diasporic polyrhythmic complexity going up. It's a lot of fun. Here's a tune, a rhythm that I like to explore with you. It's very interesting because I think it illustrates another aspect of Afro-diasporic rhythm. And I'm kind of a nerd about this because my doctoral dissertation was about Afro-Cuban rhythm. So if don't look at the score, let me do this. If I go, it's basically a quintillo followed by a simpler bar of just eighth notes. So is the downbeat here? Boom, 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 boom. Or is it here? Boom, 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 boom. Which one is it? Which one do you think it is? This is a excerpt from a very famous Afro-Cuban dance, a danza afro-cubana by the Cuban composer Ernesto Lezcano. And so it starts off with a bass line. Then you get etc., etc. So you're hearing, all of a sudden you hear this very European melody. 4, 1, 2, 3. 4 and 1, 2, 3. 4, 1, 2, 3. 4 and 1. So you have this this European melody over a very Afro-Cuban rhythm in the left hand of the piano that almost suggests drums. So the point I make to class, usually my students here, it kind of fools you. It makes you think that this low note is the downbeat, because that oftentimes is what happens in European Creole music. Boom. But no, here, the low note is actually the last eighth note in the bar. Etc. So very curious. So we've been talking about Cuban rhythms. So if we look at some of these I'm indebted to Eduardo Martin, a good friend of mine, a brilliant guitarist and composer. He shared this with me, and so this is like for somebody if they want to practice. Big tune here. So the cha-cha-cha rhythm, And so go. So that would be a basic cha-cha-cha rhythm. And then we have the, he explained to me that you can't really talk about Cuban rhythms as they apply to the guitar, because the guitar is not typically a solo instrument when they're playing these kind of rhythms. But he kind of came up with a transcription of what all of the basic lines in the typical Cuban ensemble, like, you know, bass line and percussion instruments, what would be a pretty feasible version if you combine them. And you can see that the guido, that'd be the scraper instrument. And then you got the, what is it, the bailas. I forget what that is. That might be like some kind of like something like a cajon, a box or something. So it's giving you kind of like the makings of a whole Cuban band as a big play in the danzón. What do you want to do now? I think is this like a 45 minutes long? I remember, right? We have some 50 minutes. Should we go back to Brazil and talk about some more Brazilian rhythms? So we haven't done choros yet, have we? We have no, we don't have choros. We have just the sambas. So, but there's a lot of overlap. You could do like this one. To me, is a little bit closer to choros. So, here's what we have here. And so we see that the bass on bum, 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 bum. So you got the bass line's a little bit more complicated than just being straight quarter, like the first one we learned. Here is a ba, 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 ba. So you anticipate the rhythm a little bit there. There we go. So I have that rhythm. Kind of a descending pattern. Very, very cool. And then we have this one, which is I think it's one of the coolest ones in the book. The bass line, at least I remember. I figured this one, see if I remember. So bum, ba 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 bum, ba bum, bum, both of the lines, the guitar chords and the bass line are kind of syncopated, but they overlap with each other, or they intersect with each other just beautifully. And here's another one that has more of a syncopated bass line. So. Etc. So I actually wound up using one of these rhythms in a composition of mine that I called Brasileirando. It was on the CD that I made with the Rochester Folk Art Guild up in upstate New York. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, those guys commissioned me. Notice they paid me some money. It's always nice to get a little money for what's just a labor of love. And I wrote a 4-movement suite for them called Diarios, which is kind of like a musical travelogue. So there's Cuba, there's the rumba of Cuba, there's the choros of Brazil, there's Andean fiestas, which is like sort of the ritual music of Peru and Ecuador. And there was one I called Tourist in Central Park, which was like that 50s, 60s generation of New York jazz people that I admire so much, like Bill Evans and Jill Evans and Miles Davis and Max Roach, all those people. Anyway, so let's see another one here. Here's another one. It's just fun to play some through the. Sorry. Approximate. A lot of these rhythms, they just feel very, very organic and natural, and then you realize that they're kind of throwing you a curve. Here's another one. This is how's it go? We have you go here. I should look at that a little more. But anyway, you can, if you get the book by Nelson, there's so many wonderful things you can explore. Let's have a little fun and talk about flamenco.
Oh.
We had he said a marvelous workshop the other day. I'm a fan of flamenco and a student of it, but not an expert. But I love to learn about it. And so we had a group called the Flamenco Dance Project or something like that. It was a flamenco guitarist, a singer, and a dancer. And they're all trained in the flamenco academies in Spain. And the students and faculty would just learn about just how complex flamenco is. The guitar technique is unbelievably complex. With a lot of techniques that you never learn in classical guitar. The rasgados are obvious, but we learn about all these thumb techniques that I can't even do. Their thumbs are lightning fast. But anyway, the flamenco, the rasgado has become very famous. And so to kind of unpack what that is, you can actually start just using your index finger and kind of like a hinge, like that. And then you can either do a full strum with 3 fingers or with 1. a little heavier, right? It's a different sound. But the ones that get people very excited are the rasgueado patterns. Rasgueado means actually, Spanish term means to scratch, but what you're really doing is your fingers become like drumsticks. And I've never claimed to be, I've never practiced this enough to be totally fluent in it. But in the classical repertoire, you'll have to be able to play pieces like the Rodrigo Concerto. It's the opening of the Rodrigo. But that's so much fun. I want to play that again. I had a great time about 6 years ago playing with the Portsmouth Symphony. And the videos on my website. It's actually a lot of fun. And the rehearsal was a lot of fun. They videotaped the rehearsal, and we're over there in Portsmouth High School playing Rodrigo. Go figure. So it's a lot of fun. So anyway, this is the Sevillanas. And for this, you need to know the A minor chord, which I think most guitar players know that. And this is a very common flamenco voicing of the E7 chord. Usually, like I'm teaching guitar methods now, the voices that they give to kids are, which is basically like an E major chord where you remove your third finger, so you get the open D as part of the chord. But here they actually double it up on the second string too, which is a great sound. It would not be considered cool in a theory class, a harmony class, to double the seventh, but they do it here and it sounds wonderful. So just kind of go back and forth, and there's a call that the salida, as you can see. So they're giving you some ideas of some inkling of traditional flamenco terms. La salida. That means like the entrance of the guitar. And one thing I learned from the workshop, I kind of already knew this, but even more demonstrate, is that the pure form of flamenco guitar is not a solo instrument. It's as an accompanist to dancers and singers, and the competent flamenco guitarists must know literally almost hundreds of palos, as they call it. These are genres like bulerías, sevillanas, seguidillas, which all have their different rhythmic pattern and other traditions. So it's quite a complex culture, and with its own music theory to go along with it. So let's talk about the rasgueado. So the way that rasgueado works, and what I tell my students is, if you want to do a rasgueado, just imagine you're back in middle school and you're trying to maybe hit 5 different spitballs with your fingers, right? So you have your pinky comes out, and you kind of put the fingers in the palm of your hand pretty firmly, but still loosely, and the pinky comes out. Then the ring finger, second, then the middle finger, and finally the index. That's one of the hardest to do, and an author that I've been reading says that the 5-finger is more typical of an older generation of flamenco players. And that the younger generation, they mostly do 3 fingers, so ring, middle, index, and then, but you always come back with the index. is on that upstroke. So, and that's the rhythm you're trying to go for anyway. I should be a lot clearer, but I don't really play flamenco myself. I told the colleague the other day, well, if I wanted to learn flamenco, I'd probably have to go live in a cave in Granada for 20 years. And he laughed. I said, well, not entirely. So there's a lot of people teaching online now. There's a lot of published material, and and the recordings of famous players like Sabicas and Paco de Lucia, people like that, are all available. So it's a huge aficionado community of people who study flamenco guitar as a pastime, as a pleasure. So we're almost out of time, and I just wonder if anybody has any questions. Hello.
I think it's just
David?
me. Anyone
Okay.
else?
David has a question.
No, I don't. I'm just fiddling with the controls on this. I want to see you, and all I can see is the music. So.
Oh, okay.
You have different view options.
Yeah, I'm just looking for them.
I think there's something called pin. If you click on, I learned this the other day. If you click on a video, there'll be something like an option that says pin the video, and if you do that, it makes it like the largest screen in the whole. It makes it the largest screen in your viewfinder.
I do know about that, and
okay.
I think I think it might be your system that's limiting me to seeing.
Oh, really?
Seeing the music.
Oh, well, the music. Well, I've got the stop share here. I've got the share.
I can see the music, so it's available, although your settings, David, may not allow for that. So it's on your end. I wish I could control your functions on that side. I can't.
I do too. Hooray!
Well,
what I think I might do is just sign out and sign in again.
Well, we are out of time now.
Oh, okay.
But Jose is going to have his performance and lecture at 3 o'clock.
Right.
And it is a different link. So this link will not get you back into the lecture and performance. It will be a totally different link. So if you don't have that link, please sign up for the other link. And yeah, I think that wraps us up. Unfortunately,
yes.
The executive director of Mariposa Museum, Carla Hostetler, keeps getting bumped off because her Wi-Fi is not great where she is. So she apologizes and she wants to thank you so much, Jose, for giving us an amazing class. And thank you all for showing up to participate in this. It was just like a wonderful treat in March.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Have this. Thank you.
Exactly. So cool. Well, I hope I'll see some of the same folks or other folks at 3 o'clock. Yeah. So
yes,
we'll take a break now. We'll take a break
so
here.
Much.
Yes.
Okay. Bye bye.
Now I see you.
Bye bye, folks.
Hello,
Bye.
you all.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Jose, I'll see you before 3 o'clock on the other link.
Of course. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.